My take looking at Wendy's case is similar to when I looked at Britney Spears' case. I didn't think that the level that the conservatorship ramped up to for Britney and the same for Wendy is necessary at this point. I don't think Wendy needs this type of lockdown, controlling environment. In fact, I think it's doing for Wendy what I thought it was doing for Britney at the time. I think it's setting them back. I don't think it's healthy for them, and I don't think it's really the right conditions right now for them and their mental health.
We saw with Britney Spears that it took years for her to shake that conservatorship. Could it take years for Wendy to also get out of hers?
It can. In fact, it has taken years, because we know that Wendy has been complaining for now several years as to the way she's being treated and the communication between her and her conservator. And I don't see this conservatorship, this guardianship going away anytime soon, especially with this last eruption that has occurred over the last few days.
Wendy has done a lot of interviews. When you listen to those interviews, what do you hear?
I hear someone who's very angry.
This floor that I live on is the memory unit. The people who live there don't remember anything. Unlike me, like, why am I here? What is going on? It's a cry for help.
I hear someone whose rights have been taken away from them, and they are very angry. And I don't think that Wendy herself fully understands how she landed where she is today. And I think that that is the issue that the court and the conservator really need to deal with, is why this level of care, why this level of control? And really, if the conservator, who's been the conservator now for several years, isn't the right person, if they're not meshing, if they're not seeing eye to eye, that is not in Wendy's best interest. Changes should be made. And I think the first place it should begin is from the conservator. Maybe that person needs to be changed.
I want to ask you recently about when police were called on Wendy's niece for taking her out of the facility, and they claimed that she kidnapped Wendy. How does that affect your conservatorship?
Well, I think that the facility answers to the conservator. And the facility seems to have told Wendy, you're free to come and go. You have all of these rights. You can have visitors. You can go out to eat. And it doesn't seem like that's the plan for the conservator. The conservator seems to want to keep Wendy under tighter controls. And so when Wendy and her niece were out, there must have been some sort of issue or conflict that arose there in the facility to have caused them to call the police. Remember, if Wendy is in this state that they're claiming, in this very fragile state, it doesn't help to have authorities involved. It doesn't help to have police contact. It doesn't help to have continued controversies. These all would affect Wendy mentally, physically. And I think these are just bad ways to deal with this difficult situation.
The judge in this case said that Wendy is not helping her own case by showing that she struggles when she gets her freedom. What could happen in this case when the judge is commenting and saying things like that?
That shows that the judge doesn't quite yet trust Wendy to be off of this sort of guardianship. It's a troubling comment. If I were Wendy, I would be concerned. It shows that the judge is not ready to let go of the reins, and that the control over Wendy is going to stay for at least some time longer.
They say this is a prison, but it's like a luxury prison for what? Can you explain where Wendy is right now?
Yes, Wendy's it's a locked facility for memory care. Now, there's a lot of different residents there. Some are considered patients, people that are there because they have acute memory issues, dementia, others that have really nowhere else to go, are recovering from injuries, that need skilled nursing. It's that type of facility. By all indications, it is very nice. It's supposed to be a luxury facility. It's beautifully furnished. The people that are working there are very skilled in what they do. But certainly, it is a cause for concern that Wendy isn't able to just leave whenever she pleases.
The judge said, and I'm quoting the judge here, "I question how well she has handled the independence she has been given." Does that mean he could take that away, or that she will lose her independence totally?
It could certainly mean that she could lose more freedoms that she's been enjoying lately, but what it really telegraphs is that the judge is not inclined to get rid of this conservatorship anytime soon, and not inclined to get rid of the guardian that's essentially controlling Wendy's everyday life.
But at the same time, Wendy goes to the hospital. She's given a series of tests and she passed them all. So what does that say?
Again, a huge cause for concern. It reminds me of the Britney situation, when we saw Britney on tour, when we saw Britney in Vegas doing these elaborate shows, hours and hours of practice, meeting fans, doing interviews, and yet she was on a very, very strict conservatorship. Now, Wendy goes to the hospital and she passes the cognitive tests with flying colors. It leads me to think perhaps the judge and the conservator aren't looking at the right things. Perhaps the conservatorship needs to be focused in a different direction.
We know that Wendy would love to go back to TV or at least radio and regain her public persona. Would you recommend that, or would that be a problem, sending her back out into the public to be in front of cameras or at least microphones?
You know, Wendy knows better than anyone how difficult life can be in the public eye. And I would hesitate to send her back out until it's clear that she would be able to both present herself the way that she wishes and also be able to handle the strict scrutiny that comes from being in the public eye. It's not an easy place to be, and I wouldn't want to put someone vulnerable like Wendy back out in the limelight just to be scrutinized, criticized. That wouldn't be the right thing to do for her right now.
The Wendy we see today, would you allow her to go back on TV or on the radio?
I can't imagine that that would be the right idea right now for Wendy. It seems like as well as she's doing and as strong as she looks, it wouldn't be the right idea until she's fully and completely recovered and able to handle what all of that entails in the public eye.
In a situation like this where you have someone who has had past problems with alcohol and drugs, is that a concern?
These types of conservatorships are not meant to control people that have issues with addiction. This would be the wrong mechanism to use to try to prevent Wendy from drinking or having substance issues. To control all aspects of her life, down to her money that she worked decades for, it's draconian, in my opinion. It's excessive, and I don't think it would be appropriate in this situation.
If this was your client, what would you advise?
I would advise immediately for her to appear in court, to appeal to the judge, to show that she's able to pass these cognitive tests, to show that people every day have struggles, worse struggles than her, whether they are mental health related, whether they are physical related, and they do just fine getting minimal help from the community and the people and the family around them, that she doesn't need to be under these strict rules, requirements, and that she should be able to get some of her freedoms back. Certainly, I would ask that the conservatorship be terminated immediately if I were her.